Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Multifamily and More Virtual Mastermind. I'm your host, Jamie Gruber, with my very good-looking co-host over here, Mr. Benoit Malige. Say hi, Ben.
How's it going, guys? Hi, Jamie.
So, Ben, I'm a little overly excited about tonight. I've become a bit of a fanboy of our guest. I read his book, which is right here, Ambassador of Hope. I recommend anyone going to pick this up. I was going to put this in a Facebook story or an Instagram story, but by page 2, the story of this guy going into the cafeteria, by page 2, you're wanting the next page. The story was unbelievable. By the middle of the book, you're crying. By the end of the book, you're motivated. So it's an absolute find, and I want everybody to kind of get to know this guy here. So let's talk about him. So after 14 years as one of the most feared men in the Massachusetts prison system, Andre Norman discovered his purpose, appealed his sentence, and was granted parole and returned to the world a changed man. As the ambassador of hope, Andre's work was instrumental in bringing an end to the protests in Ferguson, Missouri, work that earned him a fellowship at Harvard University. In addition, Andre utilizes his unique understanding of everyone from corporate executives to prison inmates to help them find their purpose and turn their lives around. He is a highly sought-after motivational speaker and serves as a consultant for executive groups, prison systems, and nonprofit organizations. Andre, so pleased to have you, man. Welcome.
It's my pleasure to be here, brothers. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very, very, very excited. Jamie kept texting me. He's been texting me and calling me every day for the past week and a half. He's like, dude, it's coming. It's coming. I'm so excited.
Well, I'll tell you why, and this is for everybody on here. And I found Andre through a book called Personality Isn't Permanent by Dr. Ben Hardy. My mastermind, one of the masterminds I'm a part of, the accountability pod we're in, decided to read that book together. And we all took such huge deliverables from it. And in fact, somebody joked with me like, dude, like I read about this guy, Andre Norman, and the next week you have him on your show. I'm like, well, yeah, his story was incredible. But yeah. It's about identity, and it's about, these ideas out there that a DISC profile or a Myers-Briggs or whatever can define you. And I bought into this, but that it can define you, it's just not true. And the example that's painted in the book of Andre, and then for me going through this book, Ambassador of Hope, it was clear to me like, wow, anyone can choose their identity, and anyone can set their goal, die for it, and achieve it. And that's exactly what he did. So my apologies. I'll let you go, Ben.
No, it's good. It's good. So, let's talk about the book, the Ambassador of Hope. Andre, you were speaking to executives in London over there, and then I guess you kind of asked them how could you add value, and they simply replied that tell your story and trust that we're going to make the connections on our own lives. So I think that's exactly what we want to do tonight, and I hope that everyone listening here really understands the power that you have to choose your identity. So, let's start with the identity that you chose, Andre, earlier in your life, and how it landed you to prison for 14 years.
Well, the initial identity I chose was given to me through neglectful parents and a bad neighborhood and bad schools. It was like a lot of external factors, no excuses, just facts. I had a lot of external factors that helped shape me. And as a young person, I had 3 basic rules that I govern my life by. 1, it's okay to hit people, because if my mother can be hit, anybody can be hit. 2, I better protect myself. When I was going to school in Boston, kids would throw rocks and names at us on the bus, and nobody came to help us. And 3, I don't have to explain myself to anybody, and I can quit, because my father walked out on us and I was in the 1st grade. So therefore, he walked out, I can walk out. And that's the personality, if you wanted to say, who I was and what I framed myself around. So everything that I was and I encountered came through those 3 lenses. And that attitude didn't take me far. No matter what it was, I quit. I've gotten into a fight, or just something would always go bad. I hit somebody. So when I got to prison, I had birthed myself and grown myself to be this bad person or this negative person. And I thrust into the role. When I got to prison, it was like a fish to water. And I was just so good at being a bad person based on all the inputs that I had as a young man. So after 6 years of being in prison, I finally realized I'm the king of nowhere. I spent all this time, put all this energy in to being the king of the prison. Then it came to me, then I'm the king of nowhere. And that nobody cared that I was in some prison on some dirt road, the top gang leader. It meant nothing. So I decided to change and become something different. I said I wanted to go home, be successful, and go to Harvard University. Nobody believed me. Everybody thought I was crazy. But then it was just about me deciding that I didn't want to live this person anymore. Everybody that we are, we create. And once we got to like 9, 10 years old, it was all on us. I mean, we started listening or not listening to our parents, liking or not liking what we really wanted to do. Yeah, mom, sure, and go the other way. Yeah, dad, sure, and go do what you want to do. So I wanted to be that person, and I created that person. And there's a lot of people who go to college and take masters or majors that their parents picked, or they'll do something that their friends want to do, and they create the image of it's for them. So I created the image of being a gangster based on early childhood lessons that I chose to pull from. And that's what got me there.
Incredible. I mean, it is amazing to see where you come from to where you are now. And we're going to get to that. But you mentioned a moment ago that you decided to be a different person. You decided to make a change. I forget exactly how you phrased it, but can we go there? Like in Dr. Hardy's book, he talks about, and you do as well, I think he takes this from you, that 100% is easier than say 98%, right? It's easier to go all in than 98%. That might be from your book. I read them both quickly. So
that's his. That's
right,
his
okay.
book. But Ben's a great friend of mine, and I love him to death. And he's just been a great mentor to me as well, a friend. But when I was in that lifestyle and I wanted to be that gangster, I wasn't playing. Mm-hmm. I was 100% committed to being that person. I threw away freedom. I threw away the chance to getting free. I threw away my family. I threw away you name it. I let it all go because I was going to be this person. It didn't make a difference to me. I had committed myself to it. And then when I came to the point and I had my epiphany moment that like I picked a dumb choice, which is sometimes what we do, I had to first sit down and tell myself the truth. I had to come up with another plan that I wanted to go home and be successful. That was step one, come up with a new goal. I needed a new goal to replace the gangster goal. Then I had to tell myself the truth. Okay, well, who are you, Andre? Well, I'm uneducated. I'm a gang member. I got a 100-year sentence. I've committed myself to violence. I've got myself locked in segregation. And I just went down a list of, I can't read that well. I'm poor. I'm black. I just went down a list and told myself the truth about who I was in that moment and who I had been. Then I took that person that was on that piece of paper and I sat him down. I said, okay, now let me write the new me. I built that person. I was not born to be a fighter. I wasn't born to be a gang member. I wasn't born to be in prison. Those are things that I took on along the way. And when I decided to let it go, I listed them all on a piece of paper and slid the paper to the other side of the table and said, okay, let me write my new me. Because if I can build this person, why can't I build the next person? And that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So that epiphany moment in the book, I think you described it as literally God talking to you, right? Like you got a message from God that just stops you in your tracks with something you were about to go do. And then you opted not to. Can you dive into that a little bit just so folks have a real sense of how far you were about to go and how far you came back?
I was in prison for 6 years. And during that 6 years, I wanted to be the top guy in the system. I got kicked out of the state prison system after 9 months for being violent and incorrigible. They sent me to the federal system. And over the next 2.5 years, I got kicked out of 9 states. I had 2 riots on airplanes. I was convicted twice of attempted murder. I spent 2.5 years in solitary confinement. I went to the gym and tried to kill a bunch of people because I didn't agree with what they were doing, really messed with my money. And while I was in solitary confinement, some of my friends got hurt by another gang. And I was about to retaliate and kill the 7 guys who were affiliated with the people who hurt my friends. Because in prison, everything's measured by how many people you hurt. That's it. It's like Mike Tyson was the best pound for pound, or this guy's the best pound for pound based on how many people you hurt and how you hurt them. And that's what the gang status is all about. Who can hurt people the best? And I was really, really good at it. And my thing was when I attack these 7 men and hopefully kill them, it's going to make me immortal. I will have a war named after Andre because when I attack these 7 guys, people are going to be like, their friends will retaliate. Then my friends will retaliate. And it's going to be this ongoing scenario for the next 20 years. And I was like, yo, this is great. I thought I was winning because this was going to propel my name into like infamy, I thought. And I realized it was the dumbest thing ever. It meant nothing.
Yeah.
I made it mean something because I needed it to mean something because I committed my life to this thing. It's like being at a job you hate. You justify it, you rationalize it, and you show up every day. Being in a relationship, you don't like the other person. You justify it. I don't want to hurt her feelings. I don't want to hurt his feelings. I don't want to be a bad guy. I don't want my mother kind of attached to her. So you stay even though you hate it, and you justify the why. I was justifying the why I was playing this crazy man role every single day. And God took away my excuses and my stories of wanting to be this person and showed me it was all for nothing. So I know I was a full-fledged. I mean, I had a 100-year sentence. I had a 7 to 10.
Literally 100 years? I didn't catch that. Is that what it was?
Okay. I had a 7 to 10 year sentence. I had 2 9 to 10 year sentences. I had 2 10-year sentences. I had 2 15 and 20-year sentences. I had 2 5-year sentences, and I had another 5-year sentence. That's 107 years.
Jeez, man.
And I wasn't done. I wasn't done. Had God not intervened that day, I'd have picked up another. I was in segregation for trying to kill 8 people, and I'm about to try to kill 7 more.
Jeez. It's crazy because, you know, and I think you get to this as I learned your story, but how do I put this? It's like no one would ask for what you were faced with when you were a kid born, right? That no one would ask for that. But in some weird, strange way, the fact that you were able to get that a lot, like I guess a lot of that time commuted. I mean, you mentioned you got 10 years knocked off. It sounds like more than that.
What happened is I was supposed to do about 20 something years. It was like all the sentences weren't apart. They were like 7 to 10. They ran them together. So my controlling sentence was a 15 to 20. Then I got an additional 10 years added on for 2 attempted murders in prison.
Gotcha.
Then I got like another year added on for like beating up a bunch of people in prison.
You were faced with so much in that time. And again, you overcame that. And it's just whatever you believe in, God, the universe, whatever. It's amazing that, you know, you went through what you went through to come to where you are today. It blows my mind, really, when I think about it. You talked about well, 2 things. So you talked about Harvard, and you mentioned how you told people about Harvard. I've never been in prison. I've never been in the areas of prison, the types of prison that you've been in, especially. I haven't even visited one, right? So I can only imagine, like, how do you do that? Like, I think people in just, you know, regular life, if you will, like out and about, would fear talking about a big goal outwardly for fear of ridicule or whatever the case may be. Maybe this is my ignorance, but I would imagine it's more than that for you to say in that atmosphere that you're wanting to go to Harvard. Not only do you face ridicule, but you may face, you know, physical harm, right? So how do you do that? How did you just, I'm going to Harvard. And how did you do that in that environment?
The first thing is I made it make sense to me. I said I wanted to be free first. And I realized people who get free come back to jail a lot and really fast. So I said, free doesn't work. So I said, I want to be successful. And I said, where do successful people come from? At the time, I thought college. So I said, I'll go to college. And the only one I knew the name of was Harvard. So the worst thing that happened to me, well, all my friends thought I was crazy. They didn't support it.
Right.
The best thing that happened to me is all my friends thought I was crazy and they didn't support it. By me saying it out loud to them, they walked away from it. Because had they said, Dre, this is a great idea. I'm glad you figured it out. I'd have tried to take them all with me, which would have been a disaster. I'm trying to take 15 guys from the penitentiary to Harvard University. It would have been a disaster. It would have went bad fast because they wouldn't have really been committed. They wouldn't have been all in, and they'd have just been doing it because I said do it. So by them turning their backs on me in that instance, it forced me to go it alone. Then the second thing, I talked to my dad, and I told my dad what I wanted to do. And my father grew up in Virginia in the 40s, Jim Crow. It was hard being black in Virginia in the South back then. And had my father stood up in downtown Petersburg and told white folks he was going to Harvard University, they'd have hung him for being an uppity nigga. Flat. Who's this little kid think he is that he's going to tell us he's going to go do something that we can't do? So my father was scared for me. He tried to talk me out of it, not because he didn't believe in it. He was thinking somebody's going to come hang his son. That I'm talking crazy talk, as my he used to say. And I heard the fear in my father's voice. And my father's 6'6", 300-something pounds. He's a big guy. So I'm like, my dad is scared? Dad's invincible. And I heard the fear in his voice. And it changed my understanding of him. I still wasn't big on him for the things that he had done and quitting on me, but it just gave me another context for dad. And the guy I had blamed or focused a lot of energy on, I had to let that go and say, know something? I can't live in his fear. and I can't live in my friend's non-belief. So I just had to say, this is for me. Whether it's your higher power, the universe, the guy next door, when you get your dream, one of the worst things you can do is tell a bunch of people who know the old you, because they're going to look at you from the old you, who you were yesterday, not who you want to be tomorrow. Misery loves company. They're miserable. You're miserable. Everybody's in that same little turnstile. Why are you talking about getting off the bus? We're comfortable. Why are you about to mess up stuff? Because if you go be this person, what does it say about me? If you can go become a greater version of yourself and you can reinvent yourself and repopulate yourself, what does it say about my ability, my capacity, my drive? So let's just all stay here and like do this equal thing.
Quick question, if I may, Jamie. So there's this moment of realization. I mean, you realize that you want to change, you want to make a shift, and then you have to go from this to then being committed to that, and kind of reinforce the idea. So, what was your process other than writing down who you were at that time and who you wanted to be, and just kind of doing the switch? What was the process to keep being committed to 100% and to continue to reinforce that feeling?
The term I use now, I didn't know then, I just did it. It's called reverse engineering, where I said, well, where do I want to end up? Harvard University. Well, what do I need to do to get into Harvard? I walked it all the way back from getting into Harvard back to where I was in that particular cell, in that particular space in my life. And I realized what I needed to do to get from point A to point Z. It wasn't going to be an easy walk. It took me 8 years to get out, another 15 to get in, but I reverse engineered it and I walked it. I walked all 23 of those years. And you have to be, most of us are committed to being subpar. Let's just tell the truth. Most of us committed to driving the car that we hate, living in a house that we're not thrilled with, going on vacations that suck. We're committed to working for people that we don't like or not having too many hours in a day for us. We're committed to this. We get up every day at 5 o'clock to go do something we don't want to do. Versus saying, let me get up at 5 o'clock and grind this thing out for me. We've been just so conditioned to just accept what is. I accepted that I was supposed to be a failure. I accepted that I was supposed to be a criminal. I accepted that I was supposed to be less than, because that's what other people thought of me. I was like, when I stopped letting other people define me, and I said, I'm going to define me, it didn't matter that I started in a basement of a maximum security prison. Once you take hold of your own self and you believe in yourself, there's no limits. There's no limits.
I love that. Something you talk about, I love this phrase. It's something that's near and dear to my heart, or this term, is tribe. You talk about it in your book. I've heard you mention it, and I think a couple different things I've looked up about you. Obviously the tribe you had, you mentioned a moment ago, like you had to kind of put them away, let them walk the other way.
Right.
You did all of this while still in prison. And even, and I don't want to give the whole book away here, but even at a point where you were supposed to get out, you weren't able to get out for a long time, right? For months. And
they held me up extra 6 months.
Right. So how do you talk about tribe? What does that mean to you? And again, I keep making this parallel to, the life that you've had. I'll just call it prison life versus sort of, everybody on this, unless somebody in here spent time in prison, I don't know about, who knows, but folks that just kind of, live day to day in a suburban environment, whatever.
Right.
So folks like that struggle to find a tribe. How in the world, or what in the world did you do? What is tribe to you, I guess? And how did you leverage that in the circumstance that you had?
Okay. Tribe to me is people who are aligned with your belief, and people who are on your team and support you, and people who want to see you do well and going to support you through doing well. So how do you find a tribe in prison? How do you find a tribe anywhere? You don't look for the tribe. That's the first mistake. You don't go try to handpick people who you think will be your tribe members or be in conjunction with you. Never works, because you're picking from your old thinking. The thinking of the old friends you have that haven't worked out, haven't supported you, haven't been able to help you get through, didn't have the capacity to help you elevate or grow. When you pick from the lens of your thinking of your life, which is the wrong lens. You're trying to get out of that lens. You're trying to get out of that life. So you're the last person who should be picking a tribe member, because your thinking is out of whack for where you want to go. You're thinking from where you win, but not for where you want to go. So what I did, let's just take, let me give you, who? LeBron James.
Sure.
Let's make us, the three of us, basketball coaches. And we're hanging out in the park one day, and here comes a 14-year-old LeBron, walks on the court and starts playing. What are we going to say? We want him on our team. Don't know the kid from Adam. We're going to see what he's doing. We're going to see his gifts and his potential, his attitude. We're going to say we want him. And then we're going to go over and introduce ourselves and make our pitch to get him in our tribe. So what I learned early, indirectly, was live it. There's always somebody watching. There's always somebody looking to get you on their team. We were at a seminar once, and somebody asked my friend. They did the Richard Branson, the island thing, and it was all great, Necker Island. They said, what did you ask Richard? He said, I asked Richard, what do you do when you're not running the world? He said, what do you do? He said, I look for good people to hire. He says, because I don't run any of my companies. Yeah. So Richard Branson is always on the hunt for good talent. Coaches are always on a hunt for good talent. Mentors are always on the hunt for good talent. So once I became a great mentee, mentors were attracted to me. I didn't have to go look for them. Mentors will find you. You just have to become a great mentee, not a great seeker of mentors. Mentors know who they are, and they know who you are. Every mentor is looking for a great mentee.
I love that. A mentor of mine named David Osborne. Sorry, Ben, real quick. A mentor of mine.
Oh, Dave. I know Dave.
Yeah. So he talks about living with, internal massive integrity of yourself. What you say you're going to do, you do. What you say you're committed to, you're committed to, right? All of that. And he also has this, percentage, 50, 30, 20. Spend half the time on your vision, spend 30% of time on people, hiring, to your point, bringing people into your atmosphere, your tribe. Spend 30% of your time on that. I don't remember what the other 20% is, but the point is that those two lessons are very present in what you just said. So I think that's incredible, and I wanted to point that out. Ben, did you just have something?
Let me share this before he goes.
Oh, go.
Don't be fearful of letting people in. It's not the people you let in your life that mess everything up. It's the people you don't kick out.
Yeah.
So for me, I let anybody in my life. Hey, Drake, come on in. And as soon as you show that your integrity is not there, your attitude is not there, the commitment's not there, I say you need to go. I think it was Tony Robbins who said, it's not the people you hire that mess up your business. It's the people you refuse to fire. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with your tribe or people. Invite everybody, give everybody a chance. But once they show you who they are, believe them.
I love that. That means a lot to me, actually. So go ahead, Ben. I'll keep going.
I just
I'll
wanted
let you
to
go.
Create a little parallel with real estate and real estate investing. We hear a lot in the groups, in the forums, and kind of everywhere. How do I find? I'm looking for a mentor. How do I find the right mentor? So the question is, how do you become a great mentee? Can we talk about that a little bit?
How do you become a great mentee? You have to be a student. Mentees are students. I mean, I've had students. I've had many mentees. I've been a mentee and I have many mentees. The worst thing you can do as a mentee is tell the mentor how to teach you. So accept that you're not the mentor and that you don't have a voice. Just kind of like, for lack of a better term, shut up and listen. If you're talking, you're teaching. If you're listening, you're learning. So if I'm your mentor, I should be talking and you should be learning. You should be listening. I've had so many mentees try to tell me how to teach them. I said, if your methodology works, just go do it. You don't need me. If you have a system and a plan, feel free to go do it. And don't overcompensate with 9 mentors, because now you're going to get 9 different methodologies. They all might be right. There's more than one way to get to a place. So you don't want to over commit yourself to too many different thinking or styles of thinking. So to be a great mentee, you need to be a great student. You need to be humble. You need to listen, not talk, but ask questions. There's a difference between talking and asking questions. Talking is you're trying to share some information with me that I really don't need. I didn't come here to hear about your stories. I came here to hear your questions and answer your questions. So if you're a mentee, you should be asking questions and not talking. Because talking is trying to share some information, trying to impress upon them how great you are, smart you are. And if they're smarter than you, they really don't care. They just want to help you get better. So convincing your mentor how smart you are is a waste of time. Listen, ask questions, be humble, be open, and be flexible. I mean, if when I tell you to do something, now let's take Dave Osmo, for instance. He's uber successful and he's a great guy. So if Dave tells you, you need to go do X, and you say, hey, Dave, I'm not sure. What you should have said is, Dave, I like being broke.
Yeah.
That's what you should say. Because the man does billions a year in sales. So when a man who does billions a year in sales tells you something, go do it. And this is what I learned. My true mentors will not let me fail. They'll see if I'm willing to fail, but they won't let me fail. So if Dave Osborne told me to go buy a building, and I once spent my last $20,000 on a building that Dave told me to buy, and it went belly up, Dave's not going to let me sink. He's going to rescue. He's going to help me in some form or fashion. He's that type of guy. That's who he is. No mentor is going to let their mentee sink. So you have to trust and have faith in the people that you're dealing with. And that's when you start looking for people with integrity, character, capacity, consistency. These are things you're looking for in your mentor. Not just somebody who has the right color of you or the right attitude as you or follow the right sports team. You want the character there. You want consistency, capacity. Those are the things. And I've had mentees, I've given advice, and the deal didn't go right. I'll compensate it. I'll make sure that they're going to be okay. Because you're following my advice. I don't want to be walking around talking about I'm broke in the doghouse because I do what Andre said do. That's a personal thing. It's a pride thing. Between integrity and pride, I'm not going to let you fail. And you have to trust your mentors will do the same.
No, that's a great point. And I love what you said about willing to fail. You want to see that you're willing to fail, not that you just will fail. There's a big distinction between those two things. And I think we'll touch on that. One thing somebody asked, and I think it pivots to the discussion of vision. Question was, what keeps you so committed to being more than subpar, or what just keeps you committed to hitting your goals? And maybe I'll let you answer the question. From my perspective, I think there's a tie into vision and knowing what you're running toward. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on both of those. So what breeds commitment in Andre?
Can you see this? I don't know if you can read it.
Average sucks.
Average sucks. Yeah.
This is my great friend, Mike Burnoff. His slogan is average sucks. I've never wanted to be average. When I was a kid in the street, I wanted to be the toughest kid in the street. When I was in the penitentiary, I wanted to be a boss. So all of a sudden, why do I want to be average? It's no work to be average. You'd have to just sit around and just like watch the walls or something. You know what I'm saying? You won't be spectacular in your whole life, but in that thing you commit yourself to, am I excelling in every area of my life? No. But the things that I said I'm going to be, the things I think I'm going to accomplish, I'm above and beyond. And if I ask you, we're going to give you two lanes. There's 100% and there's 0%. I say I'm going to give you $50 chip, and you put it on a 100% line, you're guaranteed to win. Then there's a 0% chance to win. You can put which ones you put it on. Everybody's going to take the 100%. Yeah. You know why? Now, what do you have to do to win 100%? Nothing. You can just be as lazy and average as you want to because it's going to do it for you, which breeds contempt, breeds laziness, and brings average. Now, if I told you 30 years ago there'd be a self-driving car, what was the percentage of it happening? Zero. If I told you 30 years ago there was going to be a phone that you could teleport and talk to somebody in China in 0.2 seconds, what would you tell me? Zero. If I told you there was going to be a ring that can tell you and wake you up when you're out of REM sleep, you know what I'm saying, and keep your heart beat, you know what I'm saying, this little Oura ring thing, what would you tell me? Zero. None of these things existed until they existed. Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, these people saw 0% and said no. They didn't bet on 100%. They bet on 0. And they believed in themselves and they brought it into an existence. So we start talking about real estate. It's not as finite as something that didn't exist. Real estate's been around forever and shall be. But the methodology and the trainings and the systems and the hows and yourselves, don't look for the 100% guarantee all the time because there's no effort in that. You don't have to apply yourself. Now, you can do that in some areas, but apply yourself sometime. Put yourself in a 0% game. I went from prison to the White House, 0% chance. I went from prison to Harvard Law School, 0% chance. I went from prison to being a general manager at Genius Network, 0% chance. So I tell people, I do the impossible for a living. And for the record, I've done it multiple times. So if I can do it, why can't they do it? And I've done this coming from prison no education, no support, completely distraught, trauma-filled. And I've managed to go from the basement of prison to working at London Business School for 20 years, teaching multi-billion-dollar companies street leadership and strategy. So if I can go from the basement of prison to working at Harvard, London Business School, and in the White House, what can your viewers do? With the resources, with the network, with internet, with all the rest of this stuff? Are they just not applying themselves, or are they looking for that 100% chance to win, where it doesn't require them to apply themselves and stretch themselves? If you ain't stretching, you know what I'm saying, then your legs are tight and you're going to pull a hamstring and you're going to lose the race.
That's amazing. I love that, because you're right. You do tend to say, hey, this is a sure thing. I'm going to go down that lane. I tend to
have
do that.
some sure things.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Not everything. You can throw complete caution to the wind, right?
Yeah. I could have said I'm going to work at Home Depot. I mean, I could have probably hit that. Don't they say the worst thing you can do is aim low and hit?
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense.
How many people aim low and hit?
Oh yeah. Well, I've had that in my life, and I'm thankfully feeling like, and I know Ben is of the same mindset at this point. I thankfully feel like I've been going that opposite direction of saying, you know what, I'm enough. I'm enough who I am, and I can achieve more than what I've achieved. So I'm going to just set the bar high and go for it. Versus, well, I'm not that smart, or I'm not tall enough, or whatever the case may be. Which I'm not. I'm kind of short. But anyway, all that stuff.
How tall are you?
5'7".
Okay. Now my question to you is, how many 5'7" people are billionaires?
Yeah.
Bill Gates is what, 5'7"?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's not the height thing. If Bill Gates become a billionaire, so it's been done.
Yeah.
If you told me no 5'7" guys that ever made it past 100 million, then I'd be like, yeah, you got a problem. Yeah. You got to uphold. There's tons of people your height that are super rich.
Hey, 5'7" guy won a dunk contest once, right?
Spud Webb.
Yeah.
Who thought that was coming? And he beat Dominique Wilkins.
Right.
The human highlight film.
I remember that.
If I ain't saying you can dunk like Spud, but the thing is this: don't count yourself out. If you told me, Andre, there's a 1% chance that you can make it to Harvard, I'd be like, fine, I'll take that chance. Don't count me into 99, count me into 1. Andre, there's only a 2% chance you can get that deal. Well, don't count me into 98, count me into 2. We look at the odds and we always take the bigger side. Well, there's only an 80% chance that you can become successful. Well, damn, or a 20% chance. And you count me in the one that wins. Count yourself a winner. Put yourself in the winning. As long as they're not saying, even if they say 0, I'll still go with it. But if you tell me it's a 3% chance that I can get in there, that's good odds to me. That means people have done it. It's doable.
Makes sense. Jeff Bezos, somebody said, is 5'7". So there you go. I'm in good company.
Woo!
Richest man in the world.
About to be trillionaire.
I know. That's insane. So let's talk about vision. Because I think where some people are, I hear this a lot. People get lost in that space. Like, were you just born with that level of commitment? Were you just born with that sort of all or none mentality? And maybe to some extent you are, but how does vision play into this? Like, you visualize being a Harvard grad or going to Harvard or whatever at a certain point, and just going to Harvard to a bunch of inmates in a maximum security prison. I'm going to Harvard, and you had that vision for yourself. And later we'll talk about, Ferguson and the work you did there and the vision you had for that didn't go smoothly at first, but you ended up doing something incredible with that. How does vision play into it? What is vision to you? And I don't know how tactical you can get, if you can at all.
I can.
But what can you get into as far as how does vision work? How do people leverage that? Because I feel like that's the one thing that people struggle with. I can tell you I do the most, is a compelling vision that drives action.
Well, I'm going to quote one of my great friends, Cameron Herold, from Vivid Vision. He has a book, Vivid Vision. It teaches you how to create a vivid vision and live into it. And like I said, Ben Hardy, great friend. I can go down the list of people that I surround myself with, and I take on their philosophies and methodologies. So when I said Harvard, it was the most logical thing I could come up with. I said, okay, I want to be successful. What does success look like? College graduates. I had to pick a university. It just happened to be Harvard. I could have picked Boston College. I actually went to BC first, but I picked a place that was going to get me what I wanted. If it had been Dayton University, I don't care. I picked a place that was going to produce what I wanted. And once I picked that place, then I said, everything drives towards that. So I got my GED. I went to counseling. I went to therapy. I got a this. Everything I did was driving towards that goal. It took me 23 years to get my fellowship. There were kids not even born yet who made it to Harvard ahead of me. and graduated before I got
Graduate, I
there.
was gonna say, yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is, I came from, now I wasn't born with this. I was born in a bunch of dysfunction. I born with my father quitting on me and a lot of other things. I just decided I got tired of losing. Losing sucks.
Mhm.
Being on the bottom sucks. Being last sucks. Being in prison is horrible. So a lot of the times, the people who can't make up the vision, they're stuck in the middle. The worst thing you could ever do is be stuck in the middle because it breeds contempt. Like, well, it's not that bad. It could be. I know I want better, but it's not that bad. My rent's paid, my mortgage paid, the wife's okay, and the kids are going to a decent school. It's not the best school. The worst thing ever is to be stuck in the middle. I mean, pick an extreme, go for it. You know what I'm saying? At one level. I think, who was I reading? Was it Epictetus? No, it was Machiavelli. Machiavelli said, if you're fighting in a war and you're better off fighting your hardest against the enemy. So if you lose and the captain's going to say, well, keep him. He's a good soldier. Because back in the days when they used to have all these great wars, you took the losing soldiers and you put them on your army and they fought for you. But if the guy didn't fight good, you'd kill him because he's a waste of time. They just chop his head off. He didn't fight well. He ran. Chop his head off. So if you're with me and you fight your hardest, the other team's going to pick you up. And if you're with me and you run, we both want to kill you. So you might as well just give it your all. You have no value to either side.
That's an amazing point. Ben, did you have something you were going to jump in with?
Well, I wanted to go back to, like you said, I mean, if we could, a little tactical point on, I love that you mentioned the vivid vision, because that's actually something that Jamie learned probably a month ago, and then he sent it to me, and I was like, who is this guy? You know, it's like,
you don't know Cameron Harold?
It's very specific, and it's very, can we talk a little bit about the vivid vision, what you learned, what your experience was, and kind of what it is and what's the purpose?
Well, two things. It's a great book, but for me, I actually have access to Cameron Harold himself. We've been friends for like 10, 12 years now. So Cameron lives the concept of strategy, planning, future pacing, and just looking ahead. If it's like, you ever see the dog race? They put the little cat out, little carrot in front of the thing, and it makes it run. You need something in front of you. You need something in front of you that's going to drive you. And the vivid vision, you have to write it down, make it clear. Then you build the steps and reverse engineer it, build the steps in, and then you know when you're on track or not. You know when you're on pace. Now, when I meet somebody, I know if they're adding to my vision or my goal or they're not. So if I stop and spend time with you, I know, okay, is this going the way I want to go? So I'm not trying to buy and sell houses. It's not my thing at one level. So does this podcast make sense for Andre? I'm saying Andre's not trying to buy and sell houses. So why would Andre do a podcast for people who buy and sell houses? I'm saying because I'm trying to share a different message. So if my goal was to sell cars, this is the wrong podcast for me. I'm saying my goal was to help people be enlightened, be encouraged, be inspired. So I can technically go on any podcast. But if I wasn't an inspirational person, I was just a car salesman, I probably wouldn't have come on this podcast because I wouldn't have saw the synergy or the understanding for it. And I'd have shortchanged myself. Because going back to what you originally asked me about, when I first went to London Business School, and I got in front of Deutsche Bank. It was all these bankers in the room. And I was my first ever corporate speech. And some guy, Jules Gothard, professor from London Business School, saw me in Boston. He said, if this guy can turn around gang members and make them productive people, what can he do with corporate executives? And they flew me to London, and they threw me in a room and said, go for it. He said, we don't know how this is going to look, but go for it. And I got in there and I didn't know, okay, I'm seeing all these white guys with suits on. I'm like, okay, I'm used to talking about inspiration and motivation and a life story. So I asked them, I said, well, what's the best way I can make this great for you? And they said, don't talk to us in banking terms. We know more banking than you ever dream of. Tell us your story and let us draw the lines. So with vivid vision, write it down. Then let people come draw the lines and help you. You can't know who's going to show up. There might be somebody on this call that says, no, something, I like Andre. I want to support Andre. I want to connect to Andre. I don't know. So it is what it is. I might find a mentee or a mentor on this call. I might find a new best friend. There might be somebody that I saw 20 years ago. Somebody wants to do what I'm doing. We connect. You can't forecast the future. Who saw COVID coming and planned for it? Nobody. Who saw it coming? World does what it wants to do. So you just have to be prepared and be ready. Vivid vision, write it down. Write it down, reverse engineer it, and then be flexible. You're saying if you're not flexible, you're not going to last long. You're saying this world revolves. This world is not standing still. It's technically in motion all the time. So you have to be flexible, be in motion. There's no such thing as realistic because Elon Musk has a spaceship up right now. So don't tell me about realistic. That's realistic if you want it to be.
Yeah.
But again, that playing the middle kills a vision. You can't do anything from the middle. Unless you're a second baseman, it's not going to work for you.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So Vivid Vision is a great book, by the way. So I think that's the name of the book, Vivid Vision, and it's about his vivid vision or how to create one. Somebody asked the question, and I wanted to ask this as well, about accountability. Like, how do you approach accountability? Is it intrinsic? Is it just you? Do you have this tribe you mentioned, the likes of a Cameron Herold, Ben Hardy, some of these high flying kind of guys? Like, what's accountability look like in your world?
Accountability to me, I have a lot of what you call high flying friends. So, and I hate letting them down. I'm not trying to take advice from Cameron Herold on how to do something in my business, show up 3 months later and it not be done. I'm not trying to, Ben Hardy comes to me and says, Dre, I want to put you in my book. I'm like, great, Ben, this is great. He gives me some advice on my stuff, then I don't follow through. So you need people that you look up to or you respect immensely that you don't want to let them down. And I don't like showing up being a letdown. It's just an internal thing. If I'm dealing with people, whether it's Cameron Herold or Joe Polish or just my cousin, I don't want to be the person to let you down. I like to overcommit and overdeliver, not undercommit. I hate the undercommit, overdeliver theory. That's just for bums. I overcommit and then overdeliver. You're saying I push myself beyond. I'm in the 0% category. And the other thing is the work that I do helping people, helping families. When I go in and I help families be better, they need me to show up and be authentic and to be real and to be consistent and to be caring. I can't show up to somebody's house whose son's dealing with drugs or somebody's dealing with suicide or somebody's dealing with depression and be full of myself. I'm saying, so I need to stay humble to be helpful. And then the same way people saw me, whether it's Cameron, whether it's Mike Burnoff, I had many conversations with Dave Osborne, whoever saw me, like I said, Dave's a great guy, super successful. He never needed to talk to me. But Dave took the time to talk to me. He didn't say, well, Dre doesn't make $3 billion a year. I can't talk. I didn't even know Dave was a billionaire or he made that type of money. Just a solid guy. And when I met him, we talked, we kicked, he gave me his number. Like, hey, Dre, call me if you need to. He didn't have to do that for me. But he showed up and he saw an opportunity and he said, hey, if you need me, call me. Dave's number's in my phone right now. And we've had conversations periodically. I'm not like on his best friend list, but I just appreciated him extending himself. And so I need to be that what other people are for me. And as a mentee, let me go back to the mentee thing. I had a kid in the high school one time come out of the stands crying, talking about, Andre, your life is my life. You need to be my mentor. You're going to help me change my life and all the rest of the stuff. He was a senior. So I asked him, I said, who are you mentoring? He said, nobody. I said, well, get out of my face. I said, if you're not doing it, don't ask me to do it for you. There's 3 grades of kids that need your help. There's 9th, 10th, 11th graders who need your help that you can be helpful to. You don't want to help them, but you want help. So you have to be and deliver that thing that you want someone to be and deliver for you. So it's life gives to the giver.
Life gives to the giver.
That's a Joe Polish book. That's Joe Polish line. I got to line.
I like that a lot. And on that point with an Osborne or any of these guys, just a quick testament to you to honor you for a moment. They're obviously, these are guys who you would consider to be, captains of industry, top of the game, right? All that stuff. But I think there's also mentorship that they gain from you, right? I think there's a level of knowledge, a high level of knowledge that they're gaining from you. And again, you talked about it, corporate execs. I think you have a section here I actually messaged you about. I don't know if you saw it or not. I sent you this message kind of with high emotion, like an energy that it came from it about everyone needs help, right? It's not just your experience was more inner city Black, right? That was kind of where you were. And
that's why I started.
That's right. And as you went out and started to get into corporate America and white neighborhoods and everything else, you started to realize like, yeah, maybe dad's in the house, but dad's not present, and kids find
Correct.
other sources like drugs or whatever the case may be. So to your point, somebody like Osborne or any of these guys, you know, I would bet that they're getting a ton of value from your wisdom, from your knowledge, from your experiences, which is very, very powerful. So just a quick prelude to you.
For Genius Network, we have a program called Genius Recovery. And I've been with Genius Network and Joe Paulus for 2 years. And what we do for the membership, if any member of Genius Network has a family member or loved one in trouble, they call up and we show up. That's it. It just comes part of the membership. If you call and say, hey, my daughter's lost or my son's strung out or somebody's in jail, we show up. And we get on the plane and I'll be right there. We're going to do our best to get them through. And if not, we're going to help them get them through. So we just show up for the people. And that's been me and Joe's connectivity is he wants to give back. I give back. And that's what we met up at in that space. And together, we just go out and try to save as many lives as possible or impact as many lives as possible. It's not about bottom line or upsell. It's just, hey, this is a bonus. So I know for the last few years, Joe spent a couple $100,000 just trying to help people be better. I'm saying, because those who are given a lot, I'm saying there's a lot expected of them. And it doesn't matter in the Bible, not to be religious, it says the lady who gave her last $2 was more impactful than the man who gave $20 or $1,000. That's her last. So where is your giving coming from? Is it coming from abundance or is it coming from your heart? There's a difference.
Can you explain the difference real quick? That's an interesting way of putting it. Is it coming from abundance or coming from your heart? So
I just got a lot of money. So it's like, I can blow $1,000. Okay, here, I'll give it to this charity. Sounds good. Somebody on this call made $100,000 last week. I'll send Dre $10,000. But then there's a person on this call who says, it's not about writing a check. It's about giving. It's about giving of myself. So are you really giving of yourself? They said, I really don't like going to church. Someone give to it hurts. But I mean, what are you doing? I mean, so if you're a millionaire and you give $1,000, is that the same thing as a guy who only got $50,000 giving $1,000? I'm saying, are you giving in proportion to what you've been given? Mm-hmm. So
that makes a lot of sense. Okay. You talk about a life of service, which I think is very powerful. We only got a few minutes left, but I want to, before we wrap with, how people can learn more about you, your book and all of that, I want to make sure people know how to find you and your message. But on the life of service piece, Ferguson was a very, very big story in this country years ago. Yes. I'm sure everybody remembers it like any other big story that we've had, the recent events notwithstanding. Talk about Ferguson, because if I've read it right, you were there in advance of all of that. You were already working with Ferguson before any of the Michael Brown incident happened or any of the fallout from that. So could you just give us, I think it's compelling information for people to understand this to me, and maybe I don't want to put this in your words in your mouth, but this to me feels like the story that brings full circle from where you were to where you wanted to be, the man you visioned when you were in a prison cell at one point. It feels like it lived in this place. So I'd love to hear about this for our
I folks. Came out, I was doing a lot of volunteer work around the city and around the country, just helping people like check to check. I mean, if you could pay me, I show up. If you couldn't, I pay me, I show up. So I was flying home one day from Philly to Boston. I met a guy on a plane named David Seligman. He was a YPO member. Didn't know what YPO meant. It's this collection of CEOs that generate like $9 trillion. And we just got into these deep conversations over the course of a year. He said, Andre, I'm going to help you become successful so you can be my give back to the world, and then you go help people. So he got me into YPO speaking, where now they pay me $10,000, $20,000 a speech. Mm-hmm. I never got $10,000 a speech before. I'm getting like $500. He said, you go do this. And the way we came up with to make it make sense, because I didn't like taking $10,000. So anybody who would hire me for a speech, YPO, I would come in 5-6 days early and do volunteer work. So if you hired me to come to Grand Rapids, Michigan, the speech is on Friday, I come in on Monday, and all week we volunteer for free. So they brought me to St. Louis to do the YPO St. Louis. I came in on Tuesday for a Sunday speech. I volunteered the whole week. I connected with some other YPOers who got me in there and started doing work at a school called Roosevelt. We did the Lean On Me thing, turned the whole school around from gang infested to out of control to kids are learning, teachers are doing better. And I connected YPO, EOers, the whole nine for like a year. I leave. I actually live with my guy, Dave Spence, YPO, for a whole year. Him, family, everything. We eating dinner, picking the kids up from school. I leave. Ferguson happens. And for 15 months, the whole city was out of control. Ferguson, for those who don't know, borders St. Louis. You turn a corner, you're in Ferguson, turn a corner, you're back in St. Louis. I'd been to Ferguson 20 times, just didn't know it. So they called me, Dan Curran, Dave Spence, two local YPOs and EOs. I came back in, we get together, we go out, and through the entrepreneurship connections and my street connections, we were able to get the mayor, the police chief, and the protesters all in one room and have a conversation about solutions. And when we were doing that, there were some people who wanted to be agitators and over the toppers and just ruin the conversation. They wanted to yell. So they messed the whole thing up, but we were able to piece it back together and get communication between the groups that mattered. And they were able to resolve that and bring peace to Ferguson. And just now, we just had George Floyd die. And George Floyd died, and the entire world watched that man die on video at the same time due to the pandemic. And now it's Black Lives Matter again. And some people say, why Black Lives Matter? Why not all lives matter? And what I explain to people is if I could, as a marketer, rebrand Black Lives Matter, I would, because people are looking for an opt-out. If you're getting stuck on the wrong thing, then it's because you want to. For me, I said, it's not Black Lives Matter or White Lives Matter. There was a time during slavery where you could just kill a black person, hang them, shoot them, throw them in a ditch, whatever. Black lives didn't matter. During Jim Crow, you can lynch us 100 miles an hour, no consequence. Black lives didn't matter. Civil rights, we've all seen the videos with the dog hoses and the billy clubs. Black lives didn't matter. Mass incarceration, don't matter. You know what I'm saying? War on drugs, straight into the black community, don't matter. If I could, I would rename the movement, Can Black Lives Matter Now? Because that's what it's truly saying. It's not like white lives don't matter. But there's been no time in this country history that white lives didn't matter. There's been no time in this country's history where police didn't matter. So what we really need to rename the movement is can Black Lives Matter Now? Because people look, what about us? This is not about you, bro. You're saying you haven't spent 4 years being tormented and or tortured or murdered. So I'm not against any one particular group. I want to say, can Black Lives Matter now? And my thing is, I don't want to talk about Michael Brown Jr. I don't want to talk about Trayvon or Tavera Rice or anybody else. I want the world, white, black, and Hispanic, to sit down with their groups of friends, wherever they are, if they look like them or not, watch that video and have a conversation about how that particular man died. And do you think that was right? And how can we fix that? Don't worry about Rodney King. Don't worry about looters. Don't worry about, no. Let's watch the George Floyd video and say, can we fix that? Because that's where it is. I'm not for or against anybody. And I just believe if we want to, this conversation has been 400 years coming. But we finally have the first chance to rectify and get healing from slavery. First chance. And I hope that we take the opportunity to not just reinvent ourselves and better business people. If we could fix this hurdle that we've been dragging around for 400 years, oh my God, we would really be the greatest nation on the planet.
Yeah, that would be stratospheric. I agree. Very interesting little realization for me on all of this, being a white man growing up in America. You know, a lot of people now say, man, I'm afraid to, as a white person, I'm afraid to say the wrong thing, or, you know, I hope people understand my intent, right? Not that I may say something and like, I didn't mean it that way or whatever. And it's uncomfortable. I hear this a lot. And I had this revelation by talking to some black friends of mine that they're almost like saying like, well, yeah, that's every day for a black man in America, or a black woman in America. Like I've always felt like I had to watch how I said things or be very careful on how I communicated. So now, you know, we're kind of getting that feeling. So it does, I hope, does feel like this unfortunate, terrible incident with George Floyd does create the kind of change that you just talked about. Because I think I haven't heard anybody anywhere disagree with the travesty that it was. You know, like we're all aligned around that. So I think there's some hope for that.
I don't want to get into was his criminal record, looting and rioting and protesting. That's a whole something. There's different spaces for different people.
Yeah.
And I say versus Black Lives Matter, let's support black equality. Let's just say, something, black folks have contributed a lot. They can contribute more. Let's make it fair. Whatever fair looks like.
Yeah.
Right now, it's not fair. So 4% of black men make up 40% of prisons.
Yeah. 60%
of our kids in public school are failing out. You know what I'm saying? And just George Floyd and on down the list is just injustice. So let's just say, hey, Black Lives Matter is a great slogan. I want black equality. I want it to be that, you know what I'm saying, we can all just be on the same plate. Like, we can do this. If we can do this, if we can converse, we can grow, we can make money together, we can travel together, we can coexist above and beyond that underlying theme of, are they mad at us still? Because every person has that, are they mad at us still? Is he going to be the black person that lashes out against me for slavery? And people walk around with that. And this is our chance to finally get rid of that. Because I don't like walking around, people looking at me like, are you the guy that's going to attack me for what happened to your great-grandfather? Or shoot to your father. Oh, better yet, what happened to you? They threw rocks at me as I was a kid. Forget my great-grandfather. They stoned me. And this is my lifetime. We don't need to go back 4 generations. I had white people throw rocks at me. Yeah. So, but we can move past that. And forgiveness is a huge part, but we need forgiveness and acceptance on both parts. And success is success, and it's possible. And I want you people here not to reinvent themselves. This isn't when switching to a political thing. You can be the person you want to be. And I'm not against racism. If you want to be a racist, no problem. Be a racist. I have no problem with that. Knock yourself out. Be the best racist you can be. Just don't become a cop in my neighborhood where there's nothing but black people. Don't become a school teacher for inner city black school. If you don't like black kids, don't be a teacher at a black school. My father's a racist, and I love him to death. He was raised in the 40s and terrorized by white folks. What happened?
Oh, you still there?
I'm still here, yes.
Yeah, we're good.
Good. I just can't see you.
Oh.
So, I mean, my father, there you go. My father was a racist and is, and he no matter what you tell him, you're not gonna make him like white people based on his upbringing. And there's some white folks who feel the same way. But the difference is my father's not a police officer in the suburbs. If my dad was a police officer in the suburbs, it'd be a problem for y'all.
Yeah.
If he was a school teacher in your neighborhood, it'd be a problem for your kids. He drove a truck, he drove a taxi, he stayed out of the way. He stayed in his little bubble, and he just didn't like white people from there. So I have no problem with racists because my dad's one. I just don't want you or that person that take a job of authority and over us and then say you don't like us at the same time. I have no problem with being a racist. None. Let them be all the racists they want.
It's an unbelievable perspective. It makes sense. It really does. And I mean, we're right up against it here. So I'll just say this. I believe, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, this has been our best guest. This has been unbelievable. And by the way, you're from the graphic in the background, best graphic we've had. So I appreciate that.
That was just, yeah.
And you're from my favorite city. My wife, I met her when I lived in Boston. She's from Lynn. We lived in the Seaport in Billerica. So north of the city more, but
I used to work in Billerica County Jail.
Did you really?
And I grew up going to Lynn.
No kidding. Yeah. My wife's family immigrated there when she was young. So that's where she's from. You know, she came out of that and did some incredible.
Lynn's a tough town.
Yeah. Yep. It is a tough town. So, but this is great. I'm inspired by this, man. I really, really appreciate all of what you've offered to us tonight. Tell us, I'm going to hold the book up so people can see it, but tell us more about you and what you're working on and where people can learn and see more about you.
I'm running a prison program in South Carolina right now. There was a riot here 2 years ago and 7 men got murdered. And I came in to help the system fix that. So for the last 15 months, I've been running a prison-based program for the top gang leaders and top influencers in the state of South Carolina. And we went 12 months without a single fist fight or stabbing. We had our first fist fight 2 weeks ago. So I got the top gang members in the state in one unit, working together, collaborative, trying to make things better. And I'm using Cameron Harrell's books. I'm using Joe Polish's books. I'm using Ben Hardy's books. I'm using Sean Stevenson's books. I'm using so if somebody has books, I mean, these guys need knowledge. Knowledge changes people. I'm not excusing anything they've done, but when you give them different hopes and goals and dreams, they start aspiring to them. The ones they've been given, or the ones I was given. You're nothing. You're a gang member. Go live with it. So we're bringing in hope. That's why it's called the Academy of Hope. So we're trying to make a difference here. And I'm also working with Genius Recovery with Joe Polish. And we go out, we're trying to not beat or shame humanity. We're trying to take addicts and treat them with humane treatment. You can't shame or beat somebody into being a better person. You have to love them through it and walk them through it. So through Genius Recovery, we're doing opioid addiction outreach and information outreach for people to get better and get safer. And then with the prison system where I was born and raised, I'm going back inside to try to make those. I just got a call today. We're about to go to Florida and try to fix their maximum security prisons to decrease the violence. Because we want people to stay alive so they can buy houses from your folks.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So I think you could see a lot, everything you need to on andrenorman.com. Again, grab the book, Ambassador of Hope. It's on Amazon. 2 days. Got it. So it's an incredible story. I'm telling you, you'll be riveted within 2 pages. Just read the first 3 pages and you won't be able to put it down after that. So Andre, truly, thank you so much for coming on today, man. I really
Appreciate you. You owe me 2 hamburgers.
Absolutely. Anytime. Anytime. All right, man. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming on tonight. And Andre, appreciate it once again.
All right. Bye.
All right. We'll see you guys.